So you've been making payments on your student loans for months and years now, thinking you probably paid out a good chunk of it, right? But then you check your student loan statement and portal only to realize that your student loan balance has actually gone up. I mean, it just seems like no matter what you do, the goalpost just keeps moving further and further, making it impossible to pay off your student loans. It is estimated that approximately $1.6 trillion of student loans are outstanding right now, backed by the federal government, with the average student borrowing $30,000 to earn their bachelor's degree. Not to mention, if you have a profession that requires more education with master's degrees and doctor's degree, that just adds on even more debt to your current balance.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
So, being a financial nerd that I am, let me explain why student loans are designed in such a way that graduates can never pay them off with their earnings, unfortunately, why loan forgiveness can actually become a deadly trap, and I'll introduce to you a method which you can pay off your student loan faster with the same financial budget that you currently have. According to NerdWallet, 92% of all student loans are backed by the federal government. That means that the US government is insuring these loans in case the borrower defaults or, simply put, doesn't pay them.
I'm not paying for those.
Really?
Target acquired. Weapons free in 5 seconds.
And when the government insures, the lenders do have to play by certain rules, but we'll get to that in just one sec. Now, in terms of federally backed student loans, there are 4 major types of student loans that a student can borrow. Now, for the sake of this video, we're gonna highlight just one type, and that is the direct unsubsidized loan. Unsubsidized student loans typically accrue interest from day one as soon as you start school, so even while you're in school, it's charging interest, whereas subsidized loans do not, and they typically wait until you start the repayment process and after you graduate from school. Supposing you borrow a total of $60,000 to get your 4-year degree, with each year you're borrowing $15,000. Now, let's for a second assume that the entire $60,000 is unsubsidized. The additional interest tacked on to the balance is another $7,884.47, assuming 5% interest compounded over the 4 years that you're in school. Now, this is mainly due to the fact that you aren't making any payments during those 4 years, and the balance just keeps going up and up. While you may have started with borrowing $60,000, by the time you're done with your 4-year degree, you have now started with $68,000, which means that you're in a deeper hole than you begin with. Now, you're expected to start with $68,000 as your payoff, and repayment starts there, but remember, interest is still accruing. So from there, your lender is going to demand that you start making payments on a set schedule. Now, typically, you'd be expected to pay off your loan on a 25-year amortization schedule. Simply put, you'd be done paying off your student loan at the end of 25 years. So I took one for the team and went ahead and calculated the payment on this student loan. So let's stay with the example, and I went ahead and calculated the payment on this to be $396.84 every single month for the next 25 years, which is also made up with interest and principal payments. And what's even crazier is that if you do end up making it to the end of 25 years, you'd end up making a total of $51,169.16 of interest payments over the next 25 years. I mean, come on, you've literally borrowed $60,000 only to pay nearly $59,000 of interest.
Come on, man.
Now, of course, the government and the lenders know that not all graduates and students will get a good job right off the bat. And that being said, not many students will be able to start making payments on time. And yeah, I mean, come on, a payment of $396 is not a small amount for a 22-year-old kid.
I'm so broke.
I know.
This is where the government and the lender comes in for the rescue. Many years ago, the federal government has rolled out a program where if you cannot make the payments because, of course, your income isn't sustainable, they'll offer you a special program called the Income-Driven Repayment Plan, or IDR for short. Of course, they'll verify your income through tax returns or pay stubs to qualify for the program. After verifying your income, the government and the lender will give you a new payment amount based on what they believe you can afford. Now, typically, this amount is a fraction of the original monthly payment, which in this example is $396.84. But here's why your student loan balance hasn't been going down even when you do make these payments on time and consistently. Remember how in our example that your monthly payment is $396.84 and part of that is interest? Well, during the IDR plan, the interest is still being accrued that outpaces your payment each month. In other words, interest is getting charged way more each month than your actual payment.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now.
So let's say that your IDR payment plan is $100 a month, okay? That's simply what you can afford. The problem is that the interest you owe based on 25-year term is almost triple that of your IDR payment each month. And here's a screenshot to show you. Pretty much any interest and principal that you don't pay is added onto the balance, which means that you're sinking into a deeper and deeper hole. So while the IDR plan does help you buy more time, you're basically on a sinking ship and you gotta get out of it as soon as possible. And unfortunately, this has been the reason why millions and millions of borrowers are spiraling out of control with our nation's student loan balance increasing every single year. So surely canceling all student loan debt is the answer and the solution, right? Well, the answer to this question is kind of complicated. And simply canceling student loan debt across the board not only breaks accounting and macroeconomic rules, but also begs ethical questions like, will people get refunds, especially if they paid off their student loans before the student loans were canceled? How far back do people get refunds? Who qualifies? And fundamentally, looking into the future, what does our student loan system look like even after the cancellation of all student loans? I mean, canceling student loans one time is complicated enough, but think about the future student loans. Will they get canceled as well? So the real problem is how education is financed before we can go and tackle the existing student loan problem. Because otherwise, we're gonna have this problem over and over again if we don't solve the bottom line problem. And another thing to consider, from a tax perspective, the current tax law states that any canceled or forgiven student loan is to be treated as income. So if you have $100,000 of student loans forgiven after the year of 2025, the entire $100,000 is to be treated as income, to which you'll have to report that as income at a whole different bracket at 24%. Now, ultimately, that means that you have to shell out at least $24,000 in your taxes on top of the existing taxes you pay, but you also have state income taxes as well, where you can potentially see up to $50,000 of tax bill in certain states.
No way, bro.
And if you don't have $50,000 to shell out, well, tax evasion is a serious crime with fines and jail time, and I know most of you guys don't look great in orange. So guys, as you can imagine, I am not a big fan of the current higher education system, let alone how it's being financed. I really do think that there needs to be a serious reform, not only with our student loan system, but also what higher education even teaches in the first place. And seriously, we need to stop pressuring everyone to go to college because they don't have to. And I always end my videos with practical and positive notes, so if you guys want to learn how to pay off your student loan faster with the same budget that you have, click on this video right here and go make millions in Brazilians.